The first tank in history and the monster that turned the tide of war. Imagine that terrible time in 1916. The First World War was at a standstill. Thousands of soldiers were trapped in trenches, facing a death trap, no man's land. At that time, a strange, monstrous machine emerged from the ground, raising smoke and roaring. It was a tank, the first battle tank in history, called Mark I. Today, we will learn how this machine changed the definition of war. 1. Why and how did this monster come about? 1915, the Western Front was in a state of stalemate. Soldiers were practically immobile amid barbed wire, machine gun fire, and mud. Winston Churchill was then the chief of the naval staff. He came up with a strange idea, a vehicle that would crush barbed wire and remain invulnerable to bullets. The British called it a land ship. Interestingly, they called it a tank, so that the enemy wouldn't know. They advertised that they were being built to carry water in Mesopotamia. That's how the name tank we know today survived. 2. Design and technology. The Mark I tank's design was quite exceptional. It was no ordinary vehicle. It had no rotating turret, but rather side sponsons for the guns on either side. The engine was inside the tank, which made the interior unbearably hot, over 50 degrees Celsius. And the sound? An ear-splitting roar. With a crew of 8, this iron monster could travel at a top speed of 3.7 miles per hour. Imagine a man walking faster than that. 3. Male and female tanks, a strange classification. One of the strangest things about the Mark I was that it came in 2 different versions. They were called male tanks, female tanks. Although the names sound unusual today, there was a military reason behind it: male tanks. Male tanks had a heavy firepower. A large 6-pounder naval gun was mounted inside the side sponsons on each side. These guns were designed to destroy bunkers, eliminate machine gun posts, break enemy defenses. The male version focused on direct destruction. Female tanks. Female tanks did not have large guns. Instead, they were equipped with several heavy machine guns. Their main purpose was to protect infantry and directly attack enemy troops. British commanders believed that male and female tanks would work together on the battlefield. Male tanks would destroy fortified positions. Female tanks would repel enemy infantry attacks. This strange arrangement became one of the unique features of early tank warfare. Later tank designs eventually combined both roles into one vehicle. But during World War I, Britain was constantly experimenting, as tank warfare was completely new. No one knew exactly how to use tanks. First tank battle, Somme, 1916. September 15th, 1916. The Battle of the Somme was already one of the bloodiest battles in human history. Millions had already died. Then Britain used its secret weapon, 49. Mark I tanks were prepared for battle, but many broke down before they reached the front. Mechanical problems were common. In the end, very few tanks made it to the front. But what happened next shocked the world. German soldiers suddenly saw huge armored monsters emerge from the smoke and fog. Bullets were safely ricocheting off the armor. The tanks were tearing through the barbed wire that had held the infantry back for years. Some tanks were crossing trenches that seemed impossible to cross. The German soldiers were terrified. Many had never seen anything like it before. A German soldier is said to have described it this way: a huge steel monster coming towards us through the fog. Although the tanks were slow and unreliable, their psychological impact was profound. For the first time in the history of warfare, soldiers saw a machine that could withstand machine gun fire. British infantry followed behind the tanks for protection. In some areas, the tanks helped to capture enemy positions that had resisted attacks for months. Military leaders around the world quickly realized one important fact: the future of warfare had changed forever. 5. The Mark I's problems. Despite its legendary status, the Mark I was not perfect. In fact, it was plagued with endless problems. Many tanks broke down before they reached the battlefield. The engines constantly overheated. The tracks broke. The tanks were extremely difficult to drive. The tank often got stuck in deep mud. Sometimes the crew had to abandon the vehicle altogether. The armor protected it from bullets, but not from heavy artillery. A direct hit from the artillery could destroy the tank instantly. Visibility was terrible. The crew could see almost nothing through the tiny holes. The conditions inside were deplorable. The heat, toxic fumes, the noise like a lock in the ears fatigue. Some crew members would fall ill after just a few hours inside, and because the tank moved so slowly, enemy artillery could easily target it. Yet, despite all these shortcomings, the Mark I achieved something revolutionary. It proved that armored vehicles could break the resistance of trench warfare. That one idea changed military history forever. 6. Legacy, the birth of modern tank warfare. After the advent of the Mark I, every major nation jumped into tank production. Britain quickly improved their designs. France produced light tanks like the famous Renault FT. Germany began building their own armored vehicles. Over the following decades, tanks became faster, more powerful, and more deadly. During World War II, tanks dominated battlefields across Europe. Today's modern tanks still follow the same basic principles that were developed during World War I: armored protection, heavy artillery fire, mobility on the battlefield. The Mark I may seem primitive now, but it was the ancestor of every modern battle tank. This machine was the one that ushered in armored warfare around the world. The Mark I tank was noisy, slow, uncomfortable, unreliable, but it changed history forever. For soldiers trapped in the nightmare of trench warfare, this massive steel machine was a symbol of hope and terror. It ushered in a new era where machines would dominate the battlefield. And more than 100 years later, modern tanks still carry the legacy of that first iron monster that rolled across the plains of the Somme in 1916. So, what do you think? Would you have dared to fight inside one of these early tanks? Let us know in the comments below. So, how did you like the story of the first tank in history? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, like it and subscribe for more such military history videos. See you in the next video.